Hello everyone, this is Nimish. Welcome back to my channel. I just watched the movie Vaikunthapurramuloo. This is the biggest blockbuster in the Telugu film industry. Leaving Bahubali aside, this has broken all other records and pretty much is, if you leave Bahubali aside, it is the number one grossing movie in the Telugu film industry to date, and it is still running in several places, so the record is still not over. It's still going on very strong. However, this movie is released on Netflix, and that is where I watched this movie. And obviously, going into the movie, I had a lot of expectations in terms of the fact that it did so well, it broke all records. I thought it would be a very entertaining ride. However, this was not the case, and I'm really surprised and shocked, and I'm wondering how a movie like this broke all the box office records. Now, I've watched several Telugu movies, not just the superstar movies. I watched all kinds of movies, and there are so many good movies in the Telugu film industry with so much more content to them, so much more, detailing to them, better technicals, better everything. And yet, this was the movie that hit it out of the park for the audience and made, the record breaking success that it achieved. So, it is very surprising, and the only good thing I have to say about this movie, because I was trying to think of something good, but the only good thing that I can say is that I'm happy for the makers, the actors, the cast, the crew, everyone. I'm happy for the team that made this movie, that they broke these records, and it's a successful time for them. It's a happy time for them, and that's always a good thing. But other than that, coming to the movie, it is very difficult to even pinpoint one good thing in this movie. So let's try and analyze and break this down as to what department or what part of this movie actually worked. It's a question that I have. So let's begin with the fact that this movie does not have a very concrete story. Not only does it not have a concrete story, it doesn't even have an original story. The basic premise of this is that two babies that are born, are exchanged at birth. One goes into the very rich family and one stays on the sort of poor side of life. And this is done for the benefit of the father's mental satisfaction, that his kid is growing up in the rich part of the world and everything will be good, whereas the rich kid, whose father he doesn't like very much, is going to be ill-treated, mistreated, things like that. Now, as I narrate this part to you, you would still expect that although this is not as original, there might be some really good moments in the film. There might be some really good sort of drama in the film. There might be some really good message in the film. There's so many things that can happen with this plot. However, that's where the plot ends. Nothing happens after this starting point of the movie where the kids are exchanged. We are then taken through Allu Arjun's sort of presence in the movie and his stardom and everything from there on, whether it's his comedy, his dance, his romance, everything follows, and really nothing ever happens in this movie. And I'm not going to get into extreme details of spoilers or story, because there is no spoiler or story after this anyway, but you would at least expect a decent level of entertainment value that will keep you glued to the screen. It will keep you entertained throughout the movie. And for me, that was majorly missing in this movie, because the romance was just random and not convincing enough. There was no sort of, actual feelings of love, attraction. All that thing was not there. There was no heartfelt romance in the first place. It was just things that just happened for Allu Arjun and Pooja Hegde. It just worked out very randomly. Then you would expect a strong villain to sort of carry forward the interesting elements of the movie, to make things wrong for the core hero and the sort of the main family of the movie. That didn't happen. We've been introduced to the villain, who's played by Samuthirkani, but nothing happens. That villain doesn't do much at all. And so that, again, the way it was presented and the way it was staged is just really not impactful at all. So there is no good villain in this movie either. Then you would expect that the fans of Allu Arjun and all his followers who love his action sequences they would have something to cheer about in his, really unique action sequences or powerful, impactful action sequences that are backed by a dramatic plot point. That did not exist in this movie. It was just a random action sequence here and there, and all of those were filmed in a way wherein there is no punch to it, there is no heart to it. It was just like a Allu Arjun dance, so to speak, where he's just walking around and with one punch, one elbow, one push, people are falling apart and this and that. And so there was really no interesting action sequence, so to speak, to keep the audiences glued to understand, what will happen in this action sequence, who will get hurt, what will happen. It was just very smooth sailing and easy, and nothing happened on the action front as well. In terms of the dance elements, we know how great of a dancer Allu Arjun is, but in this movie, we do not really see him doing any extraordinary dancing. It is pretty much the normal level of dance that any actor can do and any actor usually does. And of course, it's Allu Arjun, so it looks smooth, but other than that, no over expectations on the dance, because there's no such thing. The songs, I feel like, have worked in the Telugu belt. I think people who follow these movies and these songs have enjoyed the music, so that's probably one thing that worked for the movie. But other than that, we've probably covered all the aspects in terms of the main story and the presentation of the movie, and therefore there is nothing. The family scenes or the drama, the emotional scenes are not emotional enough. There is no drama that really affects the audiences or hits the audiences in a way that you feel invested or interested. Everything works out itself. Everything is so smooth sailing. Anything that could have been a big hindrance, a plot point, a plot twist, a story twist, a dramatic twist is non-existent altogether. So even the fact that I mentioned that the main story is about the babies being exchanged, when they do get to know the truth one at a time, those sequences are also extremely flat. It's like, oh, okay, cool. So it's there's nothing really going on in this movie, and then it ends, and the villain plot is just random, the love story is random, the plot point of the main two kids that have been exchanged and the families that are involved is pretty straightforward. Nothing happens. So overall, there is a heavy lack of actual entertainment that you would expect from a movie that broke box office records. Now, for those of you that just went in on the day it was released and the weekend it was released and watched this movie, expecting a normal entertainer of sorts, you guys might have not been as disappointed as me. But nevertheless, even if this movie didn't break any box office records, I don't even know how this movie was accepted by the audience, because it is definitely a very, very weak film and a lot more could have been done. Now, the cinematography, the screenplay, the dialogues, the comedy, all of that is so straightforward and so lazily written, I would say, that there's nothing really from the filmmakers to offer the audience, whether it's the audience that watches it on the first weekend or the audience that watches it on Netflix, whether the audience watches it before it makes 200 crores or after it makes 200 crores. This movie generally has nothing, and that is why I am extremely surprised that this movie broke box office records. Now, there are a couple of reasons why this might have happened, although they are not very convincing. One is that this movie released, I think, on Sankranti at a time where it was festive, it was the new year. Everyone liked the music or the promotion of the movie, Allu Arjun followers out there, and people went and watched it and just had a good time. It was probably released at a time where everyone had a good time. The other movie that released with this movie was Sarileru Nike Varo, which is Mahesh Babu's movie. That has also done exceedingly well. It's not an industry hit or anything, because this is the industry hit, but I think that movie has also done very well, although it has received mixed reviews. And therefore, I think both these movies generally did well because of the festive time that it released. People just wanted to have fun. But the fact that this movie went above and beyond and broke records altogether and created like this huge comeback for Allu Arjun, and it created this sort of huge buzz, and it broke records of actors like megastar Chiranjeevi. It broke records of movies like Rangasthalam, and it's behind Bahubali is the big shocking factor for me. So more than anything, this is a big question video, and I would love to hear all your responses as to why this movie did so well. What was it that worked for the Telugu audience? What aspects of this movie was so appreciated? What aspects of this movie was so entertaining that people watched it, recommended it, watched it again, and all those kind of things? But to me, this is one of the weakest Telugu movies I have watched in my life, and that is the sad truth. So that was my discussion on Ala Vaikunthapurramuloo. Let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and keep watching for more.